Hi, I'm Simon Lamb, poet, performer, storyteller, and here's the plot twist. My first degree was in mathematics, and in the next few minutes I'm hoping to tell you the story of how I went from having a maths degree to becoming a poet. When not only the maths thing, but also when I was in secondary school, I didn't really like poetry. In fact, I just didn't get it at all. So what happened? This. I'm a Scout leader, and every second summer there's a great big camp in BeALittle in Scotland. And I went along there in 2012. It was my second time as a leader, my fourth time overall. And during that camp, I was asked whether I wanted to perform something at the staff club. And the person said, surely you've got something in you, a monologue or a poem? And I thought, a poem. Now, I liked writing at the time, not particularly poetry, but I thought maybe there's something in this. You see, BeALittle plays host to loads of countries and hundreds of people during that camp. And I thought, why write a poem myself when I could get everybody to write a poem with me? So this is what I did. Over the first week of the camp, a 2-week camp, I went round as many children as I could, as many participants, as many scouts, and said, complete the following sentence in your own words. I am a scout. I am... fill in the blank. Well, I got hundreds of responses. And then, during the second week, I whittled it down. I chose the ones that really stood out, that really sparkled. And then I gave it to a group of scouts and said, do you want to help order this with me? And then once I had that, I turned my pen on it to create a poem called I Am a Scout. And I performed it in the staff club. And it was really well received. And then I was asked to perform it at the closing campfire, just before the final flag down. And I did. And really, that was the point in my life that I suddenly went, aha, this is poetry. The engagement that I felt from that campfire performance and the excitement when a scout heard their line or their country mentioned, the connection between performer and audience was just electric. And I thought I could do more with this. And I did. After I graduated, I decided to take a year out before I went into my occupation, which was education. I was a primary school teacher. And during that year, I got a job in Sainsburys. Other supermarkets are available. And whilst I was in Sainsburys, little did I realise that within just a few months of being in that store, well, I would have turned the place into something of a little theatre. This is how it happened. At the Christmas party, I was asked whether I would contribute a couple of poems, a bit of a cabaret, as it were. And I even wrote a very small verse about Sainsburys at Christmas time. Well, before I knew it, the following Burns Day, I was standing at the front of the store with the public stopping and watching me perform a version of Robert Burns' poem, Tam O'Shanter, with an ending rewritten by me to set the story in Sainsburys. And before I knew it, I was there on Valentine's Day doing Romeo and Juliet, rewritten to take place in a Sainsbury's store. And I also did Humpty Dumpty at Easter, rewritten to take place in a Sainsbury's store. Honestly, it was the most fun. And it was that year that made me realise the joy of performance poetry. Again, that connection between audience and performer. Also, it allowed me to write narrative poems, expanding, I guess, a skill set from this poem, I Am a Scout, you heard about a few moments ago. What happened next? This. I worked in schools for about half a decade, and during that time I actually wrote quite a bit of material inspired by my time as a teacher, including not just poems, but also some sketches and even a show. Well, last year I worked with a group of about 60 children and we produced this. We Are the Words. This is a book of their poetry and it's, without question, my proudest achievement as a teacher, and I'm sure it's something that they will treasure for many, many years to come. This then inspired me to do workshops in other schools, and having produced that book with the kids, well, I thought there's only one more thing that I could possibly do after that, and it was this. And what was the one thing left to do? Well, it was being brave enough to share my own story through poetry, my own written words about me, and I did in this Cathedral Sky, a poetry pamphlet, a narrative sequence in which I shared some personal poems myself. I supported it with a tour around Scotland, and I had such fun and such excitement was created within me in performing for an audience of people who had come for an evening of enjoyment, to lose themselves in magic for an evening. Because I think I now realise that that is what poetry is. These small nuggets of magic, and you can create them too. Because if there is an inspiration to be had in my story, I think it's the fact that we can find incredible things beyond. I didn't know when I started working in Sainsburys that I would end up turning my local supermarket into something of a theatre. I didn't know becoming a scout leader and going to a brilliant camp that I would end up discovering a love of performance poetry. I did not realise that by doing the maths degree, I didn't have to do that forever. Could you perform a poem for us, please? The point is, life is a journey, and we become ourselves along the way. Oh sure, your I am a scout moment will look different to mine. You perhaps won't create theatre in your local supermarket. You'll do something else. You'll do you. But here's my advice. Embrace opportunity, because you never know. Within that opportunity, you may well find yourself. And that is poetry. Life is a campfire, a glittering, flittering flame. You arrive as a fledgling, new feathers, untamed. So you laugh and you love and you live and you learn. But you also discover that fire can burn and scorch you and torch you, wings clipped in your youth. But don't be disheartened, because here is the truth. You can use failure as fuel for the fire. Defeat is the spark that'll trigger desire to rise from the mire and break through the briar till your soul's a cathedral and your heart is a choir, singing your song and knowing it's true, that you needn't grow up, but instead become you, because you are the greatest person you could ever be, an incandescent being that the world deserves to see. And no matter who you are, there is space for you here. The bigger the circle, the less to fear. So emblazon your dreams on wings unfurled. Be passionately curious of this glistering world. Be a global citizen of planet Earth. Go live your life for all it's worth. Become yourself, fearless to fail. The horizon is waiting. Prepare to sail. Create a better world in all you do, and speak your truth by being you, because you are a phoenix and it's time to take flight. Life is a campfire. Come, gather, ignite.